Thank you all so much for joining us today for Ag Day 2020, our expected trends for farmers markets, farm stores, local food virtual workshop. If you haven't already, if you will take a minute to fill out our poll, that just gives us some fun information for you. I'll leave that up for a few minutes while I'm going over the opening remarks. And we've got some folks still joining us. And if you haven't, I realize I did not ask you to do this. If you want to, we'd love to know who you are, where you're joining us from, the name of your business, and any other fun information if you want to include your website or other ways to contact you. It's fun seeing these collaborations happen in our chat as we're not able to meet in person today, that we can still collaborate and meet some new friends and connect with folks all across the Commonwealth today. All right. So if you quick housekeeping things as we get started, I am recording this event and will be sending this out to you after the fact. If you would please keep your microphone muted if you're not speaking, that would be great. That way we can have a clean recording. If you would like closed captioning, at the bottom of your screen, you'll see a Zoom menu like you do on the screen here. If you click on the closed captioning live transcript button, that will prompt me to turn that on if anybody wants to use that. That is totally fine. That's there for you. And if you have any questions for Rose, if you will send those to me in the chat, or you can private message me. You can also use the reactions button and you can raise your hand and we'll be able to respond to you that way. And we will have a question and answer portion at the very end of our workshop today. All right, thank you so much for your attention and going through those quick housekeeping things. My name is Heather Fay. For those of you that I have not had the privilege to meet yet, I serve as the Regional Program Director and the Botetourt Small Business Advisor for the Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center. Our team is we're small and mighty, but we serve businesses throughout the region. We offer confidential advising, education, workshops, events, programs, and online resources to help your business thrive. We invite you to reach out to us if you haven't already started a relationship with one of our advisors and start taking your business to the next level. The Roanoke Regional Small Business Development Center is funded in part through a cooperative agreement with the U.S. Small Business Administration and is supported by America's SVDC, George Mason University, and the Mason Enterprise Center. Pandemic-related capacity building grants have been provided by Go Virginia. Other funding is provided by local administrations, economic development offices, organizations, and businesses that are all small business champions in your corner. We want to give a special thank you to our hosts, the Roanoke Regional Chamber of Commerce, for providing our space and support for our work. The Roanoke Regional SVDC currently serves the Greater Roanoke Valley, Franklin County, the Allegheny Highlands, and the New River Valley. The Roanoke Regional SVDC is also a part of the Virginia SVDC network, which is an organization comprised of 27 small business development centers across the Commonwealth. The Virginia SVDC network is the most extensive business development program in the Commonwealth. Today, we have collaborated with two of our other SVDCs, Loudoun SVDC and Central SVDC, and Ms. Shira is here today with us from the Central SVDC to just share a few welcoming remarks. Shira?
Hi, Heather. Thanks so much. My name is Shira Goldine. I'm the events coordinator with the Central Virginia. As Heather mentioned, I'm really happy to be here. Side note, I am a Virginia Tech grad, so go Hokies. It's exciting to be joining our friends from Southwest Virginia. But I thank you so much for inviting us to participate in this. The central office serves the city of Charlottesville and 9 surrounding counties. Many of them are largely agricultural, more rural counties than Charlottesville and Albemarle. So we see a lot of more agricultural based clients in our region as well. So we're always happy to partner on events like this, and Ag Day is a fantastic offering and partnership. So I'm just excited to be here. If anyone is attending that's from the Central Virginia region, I'll put my contact info in the chat. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, and otherwise just thank you for inviting us to partner with this, Heather.
Absolutely, Shira. Thank you so much for being here today and for being a great collaborator with us. Our friends from Loudoun are not available to join us today, but they do send their regards, and I know they've got a great farm tour coming up. So shout out to Loudon, for all those businesses in that area, and for all of you for joining us today. We are so excited to be able to be the catalyst to reach our ag community across the state. And on the map on the previous slide that shows all the different SVDCs across the state. And after I give the opening remarks, I will place in the chat a link to find your SVDC nearest to you and your business. All right. Get my slides to advance here. Okay. I am going to end our poll and share our results. And while you guys are taking a peek at that, I am going to introduce our presenter today, my dear friend, Rose Jeter. I am just so excited that Rose is willing to be here with us today. She is just a force and just a fabulous human being. And we are so lucky to have her join us today. So Rose is an experienced leader in the agriculture industry with a diverse background in sales, marketing, and education. Rose joined the agricultural technology program as an instructor in the fall of 2021 after having served as an adjunct instructor for the program. Her instruction focuses on the core classes, including the first year experience, communication skills, contemporary ag issues, applied ag math, strategic agribusiness marketing, and entrepreneurship. I'm ready to go back to school, Rose. I'm a little rusty, but I'm ready. Rose has additional responsibilities for marketing and recruitment for the program. Rose has most recently served as a marketing director for Homestead Creamery and previously was a sales and marketing manager for the growing glass bottle milk company. Earlier in her career, Rose was an extension agent and later as a territory sales manager for Monsanto. Rose worked closely with farmers to help them increase their profitability and improve their operations using the latest technology. Driven by a desire to make a positive difference, Rose has served in numerous leadership roles in the agriculture industry in her community. Rose currently serves as the chair of the Virginia Agriculture Classroom Foundation and has previously served as the foundation's Education Program Committee Chair. She has served on the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences Board of Directors and the Virginia Beginning Farmer and Rancher Coalition Advisory Board. Rose graduated from Virginia Tech with bachelor's degrees in agriculture and applied economics and political science and a master's degree in education. Rose was named the 2019 Virginia Farm Bureau Federation Young Farmer Excellence in Agriculture Award winner and was a top 10 award recipient for American Farm Bureau. She was named Outstanding Recent Alumni for the Agriculture and Applied Economics Department. Rose grew up on a small family farm in Southeast Virginia and now resides on our family's farm in Botetourt County. Rose and Ned have 2 children who love to help with families' agritourism ventures and beef cattle operation. Rose enjoys cooking and spending time outside hiking and kayaking with her family. Rose, thank you so much for being here. You have been the impetus for all these Ag Day things here through the SVDC, and we just appreciate you taking time out of your very full schedule to share your knowledge and expertise with us. So I'm going to stop sharing, and then if you will share your slides.
Well, thank you, Heather. And for everyone, I apologize for that long bio. I told Heather to cut it, but now you know that I am a typical millennial and like to change jobs. But I think I found the job that I'm going to keep for a long time. So it is so good to see so many familiar faces and lots of new names of new friends. So I look forward to getting to know you as much as possible during this Zoom session. Normally I would be walking around the room and just kind of sharing my energy that way. So it's kind of hard for me to sit down in the seat. I do encourage you to ask questions. I'm not the best at navigating everything all at once. So I've asked Heather to help me with the comments, but feel free to send them in the comments or just raise your hand and Heather, just feel free to interrupt me anytime and let me know that we got questions. So I welcome that. I hope that this is as informal as possible being on Zoom. But when I was asked to talk about the trends in local food and farmers markets and farm stands, I said, well, that's fine, but I really want to talk about how do you find trends, because trends change so quickly. And how do we know which ones to pay attention to? How do we use trends? And I'm just so passionate about agriculture and marketing and just so thrilled to spend at National Ag Day talking about these two things. So it was interesting to see the poll. Thank you for indulging us on answering that and that question about your comfort level of marketing plans will let me know, parts that I might speed up or slow down, because we are going to touch a little bit about how this fits into the bigger picture of a marketing plan. And hopefully you will all be inspired to create a marketing plan if you don't already have one. They are so very important, just like a business plan. And so today we're going to talk about how you do this using the example of local food. So quick overview of today, and talking about a market analysis, and then how we find trends and use trends. In this photo, I don't know how many of you have heard of farmer market tokens to use at a farmer's market. You can just raise your hand and we'll get a quick glance at if you know about tokens or if your markets use tokens. I'm just seeing a few people, but we'll talk about that a little bit. It does seem to be a trend that I've seen. I also want to say that I'm not a researcher on local foods. This is just my experience and how to find information on a low budget. So I think it is an important tool, and we'll talk about that as we go on today. So let's see if I can get my slides to advance here. So I want to talk about the market analysis and how trends are just one part of that, how they fit into the market analysis, which is a part of the marketing plan. And so I'm going to talk about market size, potential, and trends. Those three things normally go together as the first part of a market analysis, but there are some other things that we would do to complete this market analysis: a customer profile, a competitive analysis, other key factors, which certainly, in the last couple of years, other key factors have impacted the market a whole lot. And so we would look at all those things in a complete market analysis, but I'm going to focus in on those first couple bullets for today. And the reason is because we want to know who our customer is as part of that market analysis. And there's different reasons for that. One is for marketing. Knowing our ideal customer helps us to use our limited marketing dollars wisely. Even the largest companies with huge marketing budgets don't have unlimited marketing budgets. They still have to do a good job and be responsible for the funds that they spend. So knowing how to target those efforts and that money can be very helpful. So that's why we would want to know our customer for marketing reasons. And I'll give you an example later about how it can impact what products we offer even. Knowing our customer helps us to build that customer experience that we know our customer will enjoy. If we are trying to be everything to everyone, that's exhausting and pretty much impossible. So narrowing down a product that's going to be wanted and desired by our particular customer is going to be very helpful as well. And sometimes we'll have more than one target customer, and that's okay, but we know who they are and we can describe them. And we normally want to think about that in two main types of information, right? Help us to categorize and imagine our customer. And those are demographics and psychographics. And I'm not going to get into the details of which, but we'll talk about it a little bit. Demographics are really how we quantify groups of people, and psychographics really tell us more about what they value, how they act, things like that. But when we're talking about a customer, and I was talking about market analysis, I kind of think of it as chicken or an egg. Which comes first? We can argue on both sides of that a little bit. And sometimes, it's more of a circular thing. But for today, I want to think about, before we can picture our ideal customer, we must first understand the market. And understanding the market can then help us to realize who our customer is if we haven't figured that out yet. And so the first component of that you saw in the previous slide, talking about the components of a market analysis, is the market size. So how many potential customers are there? How often and how much will they buy? And that gives us a glimpse to our market size. An example that I like to give is agritourism near a big population center. looks very different than agritourism in a rural area. And I've seen agritourism operations in both situations, and their market size and what they're able to do is vastly different. And that makes sense. And then we have market potential. Is that market size emerging, growing, or shrinking? And what are my potential sales because of the market? And an example that I'll use is dairy. Fluid milk has been declining for a long time now. People don't drink a glass of milk with dinner like they used to many years ago. But per capita cheese consumption in the United States continues to rise. That's a trend that we're seeing that affects the market potential. And then lastly, in what we're going to focus today on, that first part of a market analysis or market trends. So what trends are there in the market? And this can really touch on everything. So including customer needs and regulatory trends or other things. And what are customers wanting more or less of? So some examples are meatless burgers, local food certainly is a trend, again, that we're going to discuss a lot today. The idea of low fat or full fat, all of those are examples of market trends. And again, it's all about the customer. So when we think about identifying our ideal customer or target market and market segment, we need to think about why it matters that I know about trends in the marketplace. And it really comes back to that ideal customers. Trends can also help us to understand our customer, again, so we can communicate and market to them in a good way, and also change our products sometimes. Now, I often have heard this when I've worked with businesses before. Well, I want to sell to everybody. I don't want to segment my market. And that's true. We do want to sell to everybody that wants our product, but understanding again that we have a limited amount of dollars for marketing and sales. And so we want to use that very efficiently. And instead of just throwing stuff at a dartboard and seeing what sticks, we want to be more targeted and strategic, and knowing who our ideal customer is and what they want can be key to helping us to do that. But I also have to say being flexible is important. And I love the example of the nugget. So how many people know what a nugget is? I'm just going to take a glance at my other screen. Any hands? Anybody have a nugget in their household or know of someone that does? No, I'm not seeing a whole lot of hands. So I'm going to explain it really, really quickly because it is such a good case study on target marketing. So these college students were in college in North Carolina. They hated their futon. They developed this piece of furniture to replace that wasn't bulky or hard to put together, that could be stacked and moved easily in a dorm room. And so they were trying to sell it to themselves, really, a younger version of themselves, to college students. But college students weren't buying it. And they met a key person, an elementary school teacher, who took one look at their product and said, you need to be selling this to children. Children would love to play on these movable cushions that they can turn into different imaginary scenes or make different forts and things. And so it became this phenomenon a couple Christmases ago during the pandemic, and they just, sales have skyrocketed. Their company has done tremendously well because they figured out their right target market. And that's enabled them to change their product further. They're now making designs and partnering with Sesame Street and Hungry Caterpillar book designs and things like that. So not only were they able to market their product better, they actually changed some of the design of their product to meet their new target market in a better way. It doesn't mean a college student still can't buy this for their dorm room, but that's not who they're focusing their messaging on anymore. So knowing that is really impactful. And then how this all fits together. All of these things start to inform each other. They start to get mixed together. When I teach it in class, the students say, well, this is a little redundant, and yeah, it is. When you get down to the customer profile and the customer need, it is redundant because you've seen a trend, you've seen it in the market size, you've seen it somewhere else, and it's just letting you know that you're on the right track. And then all of this funnels down into the action plan, or those 4 Ps, and how are we going to sell and promote our products. And so it can help us to predict changes in the marketplace. Trends certainly influence the market segment because of customer needs, and just a wide variety of things, so that we can spend our limited resources wisely to sell our product. So hopefully, if you weren't convinced before that you need to know about trends and how they fit into the market analysis, now you have a better sense, hopefully, of how that all ties together and how we're going to use this information now in our marketing. And I love this quote: change is inevitable, but growth is optional. And, change is going to happen. In order to grow our business, or sometimes even to remain steady, it's important for us to know the trends that are affecting us or your competition or your customer wants and needs. We can just watch the trends happen and not be involved, but that's not going to be good for us. So now we're going to start to talk a little bit more about trends. And I always like to define things. I like definitions. I like to look up, well, what exactly am I talking about? And so if you're wondering that, it's defined as a general direction in which something is developing or changing. It's also a comparison of data over time. So it's important for us to keep that in mind. Provides insight, again, on consumer habits and behaviors. And our target customers are normally driving the trends, but sometimes they really want us to bring the trends to them. And that can be a really fun thing as well. And then there are trends for both demographics and psychographics. And I don't know if anybody recognizes the fruit that's in this picture. That's a food trend that you might have heard about, but pawpaws are coming back. It's a local fruit. And we'll talk about that when we examine the trends for local foods. So there are types of trends, and I want to share this very quickly because, again, sometimes it's important to recognize where trends are in their life cycle. There is a life cycle of trends, believe it or not. And so that we know, okay, when to pay attention to it, when not to, and when do we want to start incorporating these trends into our business. Fads quickly gain in popularity and may fade just as quickly. I wouldn't really consider them a trend, but when it starts out, you don't know yet. It's like a baby trend. You're not sure if it's going to grow up or not. So this is a kind of an example of that. If sometimes we don't want to pay attention to fads, and I think that's okay. But micro trends that typically last 3 to 5 years, these are the ones that if you're an early adopter, if you're a trendsetter that's important to your business, you want to be on top of these. You want to be looking for these. And one example is an increase in premium artisan teas. I don't know if anybody's noticed that, but that's becoming a trend where folks are seeking out artisan teas. Now, whether or not we're going to have an artisan tea shop on every corner like there is a Starbucks, I'm not sure yet because this trend is so young. I don't think anybody really knows where it's going to go, but at least for right now, this is a trend that we're seeing. Now, micro trends are more permanent. They've been here for a while, and these are ones that everybody's talking about. So growing demand for local food, like why we're here today. Local food is not only in restaurants, it's in schools, it's in national grocery store chains. This is here to stay. This is something that we've been talking about for a while. I remember several years ago, we would have talked about this as a micro trend. Well, it's surpassed that. It's not going anywhere. This is here for a while. And then there's what I would call a mega trend. This is probable for the future. It's more like certain. This is not going away. And globalization would fit into that, the increase of using the internet. And so my advice is to pay attention to these trends and try to recognize it as we think about the ones we're going to talk about today and other ones that you're going to see, is where are they at on this trajectory? And you likely want to change or adapt to the trend before it's a mega trend, right? If you are in business today and you're not on the internet, you really should be. That's not something you can ignore. It's not going away. We need to have a web presence. Millennials and then the generation after us, we don't even really believe that you have a business if we can't Google you or find you on social media. And so that's not going away anytime soon. And so those are some things to consider. And so now how do we look for trends? If we worked for a large company, we would buy scanner data. Every time you scan a barcode, there's data that's being collected. We would spend a lot of money if we were selling food. We would pay Kroger for their data. They have a whole nother company that sells their data. So if you think about every time you're at the grocery store and you give them your phone number and all the information that they're tracking on you, they have tons of information. They know how you celebrate. They know what you buy at the grocery store for special occasions, or what you buy at the grocery store on a weekly basis and how that changes throughout the year. They just know so much about your buying habits, and they sell that data. It's very, very expensive. Most of us or all of us really are not going to be able to afford that. And so how do we do this on a low budget? This is one way. I'm sure that there are lots of different ways, but this is how I do it. And I'm going to start off by thinking about the big picture. So when I am looking for trends on a certain topic in local foods for today, I'm going to do a Google search. I'm going to try to figure out what's going on nationally, and so Googling things like local food trends in the United States, local food trends in general. I'm going to look for, has someone else already done research studies? Are there large consumer surveys that are public? I'm going to look for what's new in the mainstream stores or in more regional, larger stores. And I'm going to think about what's going on in different places. Certainly, especially in agriculture, there are some areas of the country that tend to lead in trends. And whether we like it or not, California seems to be one of those places, or find a place that you feel like trends start there and then they catch up to us. So sooner or later, that's going to impact us in our area, even if we're not seeing it yet. If you're not seeing these trends yet, I think eventually we will be. An example of that is maybe we're not all eating avocado toast for breakfast. Some of us might be, but you can certainly see avocados on hamburgers in a lot of local restaurants and things like that. And that trend probably didn't start in Southwest Virginia, right? It probably started somewhere else, but it caught on here. And so that's an example of how this big picture stuff moves. Next, I'm going to look at a region. And this is tricky I really enjoyed seeing the list of all the different businesses and different parts of our industry that are represented here today. This is going to look a little bit different for everybody. You got to figure out what's regional to you. One way that I would describe regional is indirect competition. So your indirect competition might be 45 minutes away if you are a restaurant or a local farm stand. That's not going to attract, somebody's not going to drive an hour just to see you. Maybe so, but maybe not. And so your region might look a little bit different. You can find information online, again, looking at websites, social media reviews, networking, using your contacts like the small business folks and visit VBR, the tourism group. They work with a variety of companies and small businesses in a lot of different areas, and they tend to get a sense for trends that are happening on a regional level. And so this is going to start to impact your local market maybe a little bit more quickly. It's closer to home. And then I think it is important for us to spend time looking for trends locally. So again, you can do this online. It's a lot easier to do it maybe in person, observations. You can do some qualitative and quantitative data inexpensively here. These are surveys, whether written or in person. If you're using some like online newsletters, you can survey your customers and things like that. And certainly your competitive analysis. I put a question mark here because hopefully you have a competitive analysis or you're keeping tabs on that. That's another component of a marketing plan or a business plan that can be very helpful. And so if you're already doing that, you might already have some of these trends and not even realize that that's what it is, what your competition is doing can help inform your trends. And so now I want to walk you through how I did that for local food. So I used that same methodology and I Googled trends in local foods. And I didn't just do that. I looked for lots of articles that were saying the same things. So I don't want to just believe the first thing I read. I want to see that it's substantiated or confirmed by more than one source. And then and I'll explain as we go on. So this list I took from a few different places. And one of the bigger articles that I read that I think is important to point out came from Successful Farming. It's the agriculture.com source there that I have. And they surveyed and interviewed executives of big companies like Whole Foods. And I think that that's important to look for, not just a blog post where somebody's talking about their own opinion, but this is coming from somebody whose job and the future of a big company depends on knowing these trends too. So the first one that we have is immune system boosters as a food. And this one's been around for a while. This is not new, but that idea of, several years ago, it was pomegranates or blueberries. Anything with pomegranates in it seemed to sell really well at the grocery store. That idea of eating to support your immune system, I think during COVID, definitely was heightened again. But to adding to this is eating to support mental health. There are trends supporting that now. And I kind of couple these together. It's just eating for health. People are paying attention more to that. So I want to feel good. I'm going to make sure I'm paying attention to what I eat. Adventurous ingredients are becoming more trendy. A lot of people learned how to cook while at home during COVID. And we see several trends related to that. I think this is the first one. So exciting herbs, maybe snacking tomatoes, sunflower seed oil, anything that gives a simple way to boost bolder flavors are a trend that a lot of people are talking about. So adventurous ingredients. A wider variety in produce. People want more variety there. So chilies, seasonings, just different things. We've all watched a lot of cooking shows and brought new cooking gadgets during COVID, and we want to show those off and show a wide variety of products, not just the same old thing over and over again. The next one is breakfast fun. So more people are working from home. We don't see that that's going to go away, or if it has, they've already gone back to the workplace. Maybe it's a hybrid situation. And with that, no longer having a long commute, maybe they've got more time to eat breakfast at home and not just on the weekends. So taking the time to cook something during the week has made a lot of these lists. So cooks are making breakfast special and non-traditional breakfast foods like savory pancakes and breakfast salads. And I wanted to know more about this one in particular. So I kind of Googled this on its own and then found some recipes and very new, like within the last few months, blog posts like the one I shared a photo of, the 15 easy breakfasts to make while you work from home. And they are exotic, not really what I would call, it's not just eggs and bacon, in other words. So making breakfast fun is a trend that we are seeing. Local foods is still on the list, which we're, I know, all excited about. And again, it has been for a really long time. I don't think that this is going away, but certainly seeing it more in grocery stores is the way that these articles were talking about it. And I think we're seeing it in restaurants too. COVID certainly put a spotlight on local and regional foods. And I think you're going to have some speakers later today that talk more about that. But this is a trend that we're still seeing, which is good. Plant-based proteins and more vegan dishes are going more mainstream. You know, big companies like Smithfield, and I'm not sure that everybody is aware how big Smithfield really is. It is the world's largest producer of hogs and pork, so of live pork and pork ready to be eaten, by far the world's largest. They have a new plant-based brand to compete in this marketplace. And I think that speaks volume to this trend, that these big companies do not see this going away. In order for them to keep their marketing, their market share, they're seeing themselves have to compete in this arena. So plant-based proteins. But at the same time, we're seeing meat demand that is very high. You know, I don't know how many of you experienced or had friends that experienced not being able to find the type of meat that they wanted to when they went to the grocery store during COVID. People were very vocal about it. That was a very hot topic. We didn't like it when it wasn't available. So that is still lingering, but we're also getting back to wanting to go to a restaurant and have a great steak. So the restaurant industry is coming back and demanding more meat. And then also we're all ready to grill and have our friends and family over again. And so meat demand is just still really high. And I don't see these two things. I think sometimes when we think about customers, we think about maybe a vegan versus a meat eater, and that doesn't always have to be the case. I think overwhelmingly a lot of people will do both. Might have a meatless meal and then also consume meat. So don't be fooled by that perception that it's always one or the other. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's not. Online shopping and convenience. The online shopping is very interesting. You know, these big grocery stores talk about they experienced 5 years of growth in online programming within the first 6 months of the pandemic. That is huge adoption. That is a big shift in people's behavior very, very quickly, and for the companies to catch up very quickly. Ordering meals is also up. So I found this very interesting. I'm sure we've all heard of the different services that you can order from, and somebody will pick it up from a restaurant and then deliver it to you. There's certainly more commercials for those now, but grocery stores are allowing customers now to log into their website and order a meal to be delivered from their home from the grocery store. So I think that that's a shift and that's a new trend. Again, that online shopping and that part of convenience is not going to go away. And then stocking up. You know, we've seen that be a trend since the pandemic. Everybody went out and bought freezers. That doesn't seem to be going away. But I did put a personal caveat into this. As an economist, I think that this is only if income levels can support it, right? So if inflation continues to be high, I'm not so sure where this lands, because it takes a lot of cash to stock up. Not everybody can do that. But if you can do that, it looks like people are still have the appetite to do so. And they've learned how to do it, maybe if they weren't in that practice before. I think I do want to mention that works well with local food, especially for local beef or local protein producers in general, to stock up and to sell freezer meat. So that's a good thing. So hopefully that will continue. Home cooking continues to be a trend that we're seeing. Again, you know, a lot of people learned how to cook. We watched a lot of cooking shows when we couldn't go out and do anything else, and we like it, and we're going to stick with that. So home cooking continues to be a trend. And then this one, I think it's important to mention, making the planet a priority is a trend that is in food. You know, more people are being mindful of how their choices impact the planet, and how that's going to impact their diet. I want to pause here before we continue into more trends to see if there are any questions, Heather, or anything from the chat box. And if not, that's okay. We'll keep plowing ahead.
See anything?
Okay. So I'm going to go quickly then. I didn't realize what time it was. So trends in food, continuing. Restaurants be open fewer days of the week. And you might say, why are you talking about restaurants? Because restaurants not only mirror what trends are happening in local food, but where do they get their food from? And, you know, we talked about restaurants buying more from locally. So paying attention to what trends are happening in restaurants, I think can also impact what we do on the farm and then our farm stands and our farm markets as well. So they're not open fully yet. And that seems to be a trend that's continuing, at least for now. Restaurant prices will continue to rise with shrinking menus. You know, the supply chain has really impacted them. This idea of restaurant retail, I really want to hit on because upscale markets and restaurants, you know, developed cocktails to go or meal kits and artisan products to really out of necessity to stay alive during the pandemic. And I think they're going to keep that. It looks like this photo is a photo of a restaurant that has a famous Reuben sandwich. And so this idea of retailing, that means you can take it home. They sell you all of the components retail, and you go home and you make it yourself. And so restaurants are retailing sauces and different packages like that. Hyper local foods, because less supply chain issues are there. And so that's a trend we'll continue to see. Local food delivery services, comfort food, outdoor private dining, vegetables, and fermented foods are more food trends in the big picture. And so knowing who your customer is and more than one ideal customer or target market absolutely can happen. And so I want to talk about what trends are affecting them related to food. And so we need an example of an ideal customer. So I picked one that I know a little bit about, millennial working mom. And so here are the demographics of that. The working mom is likely starting families later or in smaller numbers than previous generations and likely to earn more than in previous generations. So they have a little bit higher income to work with, the millennial working mom. And so how does that relate to the food trends that we've seen? You know, we're looking for convenience. 60% of moms spend 30 minutes or less preparing a meal. Healthy options are important, and it's not just about what's most affordable. We want to make a well-researched, smart, and conscious decision. We engage with family and friends about favorite brands through social media, and we value community, sense of smart, and making positive impacts, especially when it comes to things like the environment. And so now switching gears just a little bit into farmer market trends and matching those consumer trends. So there's a wider variety in produce. This is from the USDA, this graphic, and I want to point out the 77.4% number of farm vendors at farmers markets diversified the types of agricultural products they grew, because they were probably seeing, I'm assuming, that at a farmer's market, they got to interact with consumers and realized they wanted a wider variety in produce. Farmers markets are also becoming more convenient and having online shopping, and we've certainly seen the importance of them. They're also becoming greener, offering plastic-free markets, and I think that's important to note. We're seeing a trend that they're becoming more accessible for all social and economic levels, including more SNAP benefits. And so 45% of counties with at least one farmer's market, 32% of all of those counties reported having one or more farmers markets that accepted SNAP benefits. And that is from, again, a USDA number. So I think that is a trend to continue to watch. And again, if your farmer's market isn't offering SNAP benefits, I would ask why not, and could that happen? Kind of parallel to that is senior farmers market nutrition program. I think that will continue to be there and probably be on the rise as well. So now I wanted to talk about the regional market trends. And just for the sake of today's presentation, I chose Williamsburg, Charlottesville, Asheville, Virginia Beach, and the Roanoke Valley, just kind of this idea of similar places to us. And they're all experimenting with prepackaged goods and drive-through pickup, special events, music, fellowship, festival atmosphere, educational programs, is something to teach people about farming or agriculture, where the food came from, cooking demonstrations, offering year-round or holiday markets is becoming a bigger trend. And then this idea of mobile markets, which we certainly have a great one in our area in Roanoke with LEAP. So quickly, Williamsburg Farmers Market offers Saturday. Markets offer a Wednesday pickup. So you pre-order and pick up on Wednesday if you can't make it to Saturday. And so that can certainly be convenient for some people. I also wanted to mention that they talk a lot about sponsorships and how they use sponsorship dollars. And then they also have this pop club, which I read more about, and it started on the West Coast in Oregon, but it is for children are invited to listen to a story, participate in an activity, and sample 2 bites of a fresh fruit or vegetable, and then they receive tokens to spend on a healthy snack from the market. At the Virginia Beach Farmers Market, they're doing a taste of the market tour, which I thought was very interesting and connects to some of the other food trends we were seeing. $25 per person, and you sample from a list of vendors. They also do monthly events, March through December. And then at the Asheville Farmers Market, they offer hot meals from several vendors, live music, food samples from chef demonstrations. They seem to always have a kids booth with free educational activities. They offer double snap tokens. And then to me, this just everything that I saw from them kept screaming experience, experience, experience for the whole family. So I thought that was interesting. And again, if you think about our demographic, if I'm a working mom, I'm either going to have the kids with me and I want an experience, or I'm going to want the convenience of the online shopping and I'm going to pick it up while the kids are still in the car maybe, or I'm running errands and need to get that done quickly. So to briefly talk about farm stands and stores, we're still seeing these same trends kind of convey. Convenience is one, and collaborations. I want to point out this Goose Hill Farm that's in Virginia. They are inviting other food trucks to their farm. I'm calling it kind of like a one-stop shop as much as possible. They seem to normally have a protein vendor, a seafood vendor, a baked goods vendor, in addition to their produce and vegetables. So they're really rounding it out at their farm stand. Gardner's Produce up on the Northern Neck, even in January, was promoting their online store, and that you could do curbside pickup at the farm, in the farm stand. Meal ready items, again, convenience. And it was interesting, a couple farm stands that I talked to said, yeah, we got to absolutely accept Venmo, the online payment and credit cards. It's no longer just that cash box or what have you. Even for the roadside stands that aren't manned, they are becoming more convenient because a lot of people don't have cash on them anymore. So curbside pickup. And I think the other food trends are going to translate to that as well. I didn't mention grazing boards in a trend. I think that is a trend that has started and we're continuing to see. Nobody was really talking about it in the trends for 2022, but again, that convenience of I'm going to pick up something that looks really yummy and it was convenient and it's already done for me, and then healthy planet wise and a variety too. And so now just to kind of wrap up, now what do we do? This photo from Mr. Hunter is from his roadside stand in Bedford, and he's the one that told me he has to accept Venmo. That's worked really well. But even at a farm stand like this that his kids run, he offers eggs and muffins and yeast rolls and peanut butter cookies. So it's not just that one thing again. Laurel Springs Farm Mercantile offers activities for kids, so parents can shop while the kids have something to do. but how can you translate these trends into your product offerings for your target customer? And then you got to tell them about it. So again, if we use that millennial mom example, maybe it's offering pre-cut veggies that meet that healthy, convenient need. Maybe it is making sure that it can be more like a one-stop shop and not having to go to a lot of different places. Communicating what's available at the farmer's market can help do that, and keeping kids in mind, or just that convenience factor in mind, curbside pickup or a kid-friendly experience. I kind of rolled through the last part, but I wanted to make sure that we had time for questions.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rose. And I do have a few questions. Let's see here.
We need to monitor them for just a minute while I want to finish this presentation.
Audra, did you have a question?
Carly, can you get?
Chris has asked Rose, do you think that the water issues out west are going to lead to any production trends changing the big picture?
Oh, Chris, that's a good question. And I think it might. I think it might have to, maybe. And I'm not sure if you're alluding to like how much produce is grown in areas that have water issues, or there's so many different ways to take that question, Chris.
Kristen, if you want to unmute and ask more detailed, you're welcome to do that as well, or if you want to place that in the chat.
Yeah, it's probably easier just to say it. Yeah, that's kind of where I was going, is mostly on the produce side of things, but also even on like dairy and other things that are produced in California, Arizona, Texas, where everything relies on irrigation. And I guess, you know, that there's obviously water shortages, sort of acute and then big picture. And I guess,
Right.
Do you see that style of production moving back east, maybe?
Maybe, but I'm also seeing, like in Virginia, the announcement was just made for the vertical growing that they just got that grant. Did you see that, Chris? I can't remember the name of the company, but it's not just hydroponics where you think about a big hydroponic greenhouse. It's actually in layers. So you can grow many, many, many different crops all under one roof. And the efficiency from that is just unreal when you compare that to a traditional farming operation. So I think we'll see more innovations like that. How widespread they're going to get, you know, I don't know. I would still call that more like a micro trend. We're still in that first 3 to 5 years of these facilities. I'm wondering, you know, it might be a trend that we see more of out of necessity. But isn't it interesting that that was even here in Virginia, where maybe water isn't as critical as in other places yet, but it reuses its water. It's just more efficient. And I think we'll see a lot more trends to meet that growing consumer demand trend of, I want to make sure that I'm eating healthy, good, nutritious food, but I also don't want to kill my planet while I'm doing it, right? So we're seeing the research in dairy where they're feeding the cow seaweed, and that's helping with reduce methane levels. And, you know, we're going to see production meet these consumer trends, which is also something I tell my class, because not everybody is going to sell directly to customers like most of you do, but all of agriculture needs to pay attention to these consumer trends, because as Chris has pointed out, they do eventually trickle down to what we're doing at the farm level, certainly some faster than others, but I think it's important to pay attention to. And they do seem to be changing what we do at the farm level even faster, you know, than it used to be. Does that help?
There, head nod.
I'll take
Okay.
it.
Okay. Our next question is from Mary Rose, and she's asked if you've seen any trends in the pet industry.
Oh, pet industry. I didn't look in the pet industry, so I'm not sure I can say. But I do,
Okay.
I do know that different farmers are, you know, at farmers market, or different producers at farmers markets. I've seen people offer pet products and pet treats. But I I did not look into that well enough to speak on it. Sorry.
It's okay. Okay, our next question is from Emily. She's asked if you would elaborate a little bit more about SNAP benefits.
Okay, and I'm sure, and I think I saw somebody comment that they use them at their farmer's market, but basically SNAP benefits are like the old, I guess many years ago, we would have said food stamps, but different ways to support people in their nutrition needs. And so SNAP benefits can be used at a farmer's market. Some localities will find matching funds for those and make them stretch even farther, but you can have the machine that reads the cards at your farmer's market so that people can buy locally grown produce from a farmer's market instead of going to the grocery store. So they can use those benefits no matter the place. And then there are lots of variations on programming and how to do that and work with that. And there's a lot of resources out there. If you just search for farmers market and SNAP benefits or farm stand, I've seen some even farm stores do it. Like I think the Laurel Springs Mercantile is accepting EBT and SNAP benefits as well. So there's lots of information out there on that.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rose. Okay, I've got a couple other questions for you.
Okay.
Marty has asked, what types of trends are you seeing for off-season produce growing? The last 2 years, early part of the market was few and far between.
And so what you mean by that is people weren't coming to that early part of the market? Is that? Does that?
Marty, if you want to unmute, you're welcome to do that.
There was really no produce at the first part because of the way things were going in the planting and harvesting.
Okay, gotcha. So I know for a while now, Virginia State has done a lot of work in promoting things like high tunnels that can extend the growing season. And they have a lot of information and resources and do some phenomenal field days on that to show people how to use a high tunnel. And it's like the best way I can describe it, not being a horticulture person by any means, is that it's like a quick and easy greenhouse, if you will. So just if you picture, metal poles and then plastic over top, just to extend that growing season is a way to do that. And certainly different areas of the state have used them more than others. And why, I don't really know. Maybe it's a lack of awareness or just not knowing. So if it's from the grower side, I think that there's a lot of potential and a lot of things that you could do. If it was on the marketing side, I would say, communicating with customers and that sort of thing, letting people know. Because I know everybody right now in my house is so ready for fresh produce. Like, I don't think that would be a problem getting customers there. It's just a matter of, can you meet the supply? And there are some things that can be done.
And then there was one other question. Jacob asked, do you think as a single-use plastics phase out, the compostable packaging can succeed despite the additional cost? When will consumers demand a zero plastic option? It's a great question.
I think
Jacob.
in some areas they're already demanding it. So it really depends on where it's at. It's interesting. This is very anecdotal, not research-based. But having conversations with people that really care about the environment and eat healthy, and I encourage you to do this too. If you know of anybody like that, talk to them about all of the produce that you buy in a traditional grocery store, how much plastic there is involved with that. If you think about the prepackaged salads, I bought raspberries yesterday, that come in the plastic clamshells that I don't think are compostable. So I think that will continue to grow as there are options available. I can't say how quickly, but I do know, like, Kroger has implemented a date to get rid of plastic bags. So I think that's the easiest low hanging fruit. If you're still using plastic bags at the checkout line to look for something different, and then all the other things I think will be phasing out, because it's hard to say you're environmentally friendly if you're serving products in a single-use plastic. And so the additional costs, I think people are willing to pay for it, or the market's going to get to the point where everybody has to use it anyway.
And I've seen some markets that they've actually, as a fundraiser for the market, they have purchased the reusable bags and people can buy those. Some of them are insulated and some of them are not. So that could be another option, or even for your business. If clients spend a certain amount of money, maybe they get a free bag that's marketing for your business, that they're carrying them all over the place. So some other ways to just kind of think outside of the box for you and your business. It could be a small investment going forward for marketing for you.
I don't think I didn't mention this, but one, especially on Facebook, which is only going to reach a certain demographic. So if you're aiming for younger than me, basically they're not on Facebook anymore. But for the rest of us, it is very useful information if you can get into groups. So I'm in the Northern Virginia Foodie group. It has been very interesting to see what they talk about. Some of it's nonsense, but some of it you can get a lot of trends from the Botetourt and Roanoke moms groups, thousands of moms that talk about their favorite agritourism place to go to, their favorite farm market, where can I find this or that? And so it is like, to a marketing person, gold. I'm not having to pay for these focus groups. I'm watching it happen, and they're being very honest with each other because they don't really know I'm watching or listening for that reason, or they don't seem to care. So there's also, and the reason why that made me think of these private Facebook groups is I know that there's one in our area for recycling and people that are so serious about recycling. And so paying attention to a group like that, if that's in an area that you've identified as part of your business plan that you want to move towards, learning from your customers that way.
That's great advice, Rose. And I've got one more question. We are just a couple minutes past 3, so if people need to sign off, that is completely fine. The last question I have is from Emily. This question is more about about laws. We sell eggs farm fresh unwashed. Instead of cartons, we use baskets. The customers bring back their baskets as reusable, washable, and they pretty much last forever. I'm pretty sure we can sell eggs that way as long as they're fresh farm unwashed. Do you have any insights on that?
I don't, but I would refer you to your local extension office or to USDA, VDAX. So the Virginia Department of Ag and Consumer Services, in one of those two offices, if not both, is who I would contact for that question, because the food laws change almost as much as trends do. So I would not want to guess on that one. Yes, thank you, Heather, for that website.
All right, friends, thank you so much for joining us. I did post in the chat. We have 2 more workshops this afternoon. Our next one is at 3:30. Dr. Teresa Nardi is going to be presenting Are You Market Ready? Tips and Best Practices for Producers to Sell to Consumers at Farmers Markets. And then French Price is going to be joining us at 5. And I've posted the links for those in our chat. And she's going to be sharing about facilitating value chain connections, managing near-term demands for long-term gain. So if you would like to join us for either one of those, you can sign up on through those links. And please join me in giving Rose a big round of applause. Thank you so much for
Thank
sharing.
you. This was fun.
Trying to take copious notes.
Well, I'm just so glad that that there's so much interest, and hopefully, if they can want to follow up on how to create a marketing plan, I'm sure that your office is a great place to start, because it is so important. And something that I would recommend changing every year, just along with your business plan. It doesn't have to be this big, looming, tedious task. It can be fun.
Absolutely. And I would echo Rose's comments. We're here to help you. The SVDC is a free resource. We're happy to help you. We've got SVDCs all over Virginia as well. If you're not from Virginia, they're all over the United States, and happy to help you in any way that we can and dial in on those research and marketing trends and things specifically even for your industry that you're working with locally. So thank you again, Rose, so much. This was fantastic. Thank you all for carving out part of your day. I hope everybody has a great rest of Ag Day and have a fabulous season ahead of us. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.